Okay, good morning everyone. Happy Monday. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. We had a busy but fun festive weekend. Today it is finally feeling like fall here in Vermont. It has taken autumn a while to show up, but now she seems to have arrived and like she might be sticking around for a while. It's blustery and cold. We all have our fires going. It is perfect. Often we have snow start to spit and sputter this time of year, and as a snow lover, I am extremely anxious for it. Okay, so we are going to get started and dive right in today. As you can see, I have done a little bit of stitching off camera. I wanted to try out a couple of things, make sure they were going to work. I'll zoom right in so you can see her. Oops, there we go. I put one of her pockets, well, I put her arm on because I wanted to make sure that was going to go as I hoped. I did some stem stitching here for a pocket, and I did a stem stitch up here for one of the grooves, the natural grooves that appear in pumpkins. Wanted to make sure that was going to look how I wanted it to. I put in one of the eyes, and this is just a little eye wrinkle I put in. As you can see, she has the little wrinkle right there and the groove and then the eye. Oh gosh, I just got to notice the Wi-Fi is already acting up, of course. I apologize if you see some freezing. Hopefully I won't lose you. So anyways, the grooves are done with stem stitch, and these two I just sketched in real lightly. Well, actually, it isn't actually real lightly, it's a little bit dark, but with black marker, because when you do the stem stitch, it's nice to have a path sometimes to go by. You don't always need one. If I'm doing vines or something like that, I don't put a preliminary line in there, but for something like this where I wanted them to really have a nice curve and be in a specific area, it's nice to pencil them in, but of course you can't pencil on top of wool, so I did it just with a you can see this marker gets a lot of use, but they're just the micron markers, and it's the 03. They're both the same. I don't know why, to me, one tip looks bigger than the other. But anyways, they're the 03s, and they're microns, but you certainly don't have to use that. You could use a little bit of chalk or whatever you might have handy. I'm sure a colored pencil might work. So use whatever you have, or just don't do it at all. You could just, you know, play it, just, you know, fly by the seat of your pants and see what happens. But I just, for safety's sake and for filming, I thought I should go about it in the proper way and make sure it happened the way I planned it to happen. So I'm going to stitch the other arm, we'll do the other pocket, and then we'll do these two head grooves. I might go a little bit longer today because I really would like to get this moving. I know many of you have already stitched your ladies, and I'm sure you're anxious to get onto the turkey. Like I did with the arm in the pocket, I might stitch a little off camera and finish showing you. My fear is that you guys will be bored, and I don't want to make these videos so long that you lose interest. Okay, so we're going to stitch on her other arm. You'll want to utilize your glue for this. Like I said before, I'm not a huge lover of using wool, but in certain situations you really do need it. Sorry, I just am trying to get all my other threads organized. I have things separated to hopefully save us a little bit of time. So I have them separated as to how I'm going to need them. I have one set of 2 threads ready, and then I have one single thread out because I will be stitching the arm on with just one single thread. You don't want the blanket stitch to be overpowering for the arm. And I actually thought maybe a blanket stitch wouldn't work for the arm, but it seemed to work okay. I think the arm looks wonderful. Has a very lovely curve to it, and I love how the stem stitch made the pocket up here. All right, so I actually, for this arm, I put a good amount of glue here because in order to get some shape to this arm, you're gonna want it to stick in all areas. So typically I'll do a dot, 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 dot. This time I really put on a good amount. Be sure to clean your tip off or you'll never get this little red cap off if your tip is all gobbed up with glue. If you're using this glue, of course. I let it sit for a second. Hopefully I didn't go a little overboard with that. I don't want it to glue out over or seep out. I don't want it to seep out the side. So anyways, if you let it sit for just a second or two, it gets a little bit further tacky. And you want to go by where this arm is. So as you can see, it's not right at the edge. It's right on the edge of her skirt and leaves a little bit of edge of the shawl. So right about there. I made this arm a little bit too long. So I'm going to clip off a smidge. Just be careful because of course you've already got the glue there. Well, I do anyways. And then just push, let it get a little bit of curve. Pop this glue piece away somewhere where it's not going to make a mess all over my table. There we go. Hold it down so that when you're stitching, it's going to stay where it's supposed to. And as you can see, I butted that right up against the shawl. For a thin piece like this, I didn't leave any space in there because it'll move too much on you. If you try to leave a little bit of space, your arm is going to move and it's not going to be connected. And of course, this arm is supposed to look like it's coming from out from under the shawl. So of course you want it butted right up against there. Let's thread my needle with, I should have threaded several needles, but I tend to use this very same needle for every single thing I do. So it's a lot of threading and rethreading, but hopefully I'll be quick enough where it won't be a huge deal. Hello, Yvonne. Hello, everyone. I apologize if someone's watching and I missed saying hello to you. I can't see all the names. They scroll by so quickly that I don't always catch them. I was hoping to have my laptop running and pull the group up, and so I could watch names and people's questions scroll by. But if I try to have my internet, if I try to have my laptop and my phone going at the same time, it freezes my internet, so I can't do that. All right, so for the arm, you're going to want to do short stitches. I did this very first one long, but as you can see, the others are short, close to the edge. They're a little bit more challenging, and you really have to point your needle right down in because, of course, we've got thin pieces of wool we're working with here, or a thin piece of wool that we're working with. So you don't want to shred your wool. So you'll want to go close to the edge, straight down with this. It really does help keep your stitches on the short side. And then just come right up through the Next layer of wool, pull back and go down. Keep watch to make sure everything is staying where it's supposed to. Sometimes your wool won't stay perfectly glued. I've had that happen to me before. So just keep an eye, make sure that everything is staying where it's supposed to. Remember what I said about being aware of where your needle is pointing. See, we're coming so close to the edges. Sometimes it can be a challenge to get down into that next layer without shredding everything. So take your time on small pieces like this. You could certainly utilize a different stitch here if you wanted to. I can't even think of the name of the stitch that Maggie does that works really well. It's just a simple sewing stitch that she uses, and it does work really well to hold pieces down. I just like the look of the blanket stitch because I guess I like my stitches to show a little bit more, but the stitch that Maggie uses is quite handy and works very well for holding down thin pieces. And of course, if I could think of the stitch, and it's just a basic stitch that I should know the name of, but in typical fashion, I can't remember it. Now, don't get carried away with your corners here. Don't make too many stitches on your corners where it's going to make a lot of blanket stitch going on. You just want to do your simple corners and keep going. Because if you get a lot of stitches going there on the arm, it's not going to look right. So do your best to do your corner. Make sure it's tacked down. As you can see, I've got that stitch right there. Whoops, you probably can't see it. Okay, let me see. I've got my corner tacked down, but it's minimal amount of stitches showing. These smaller details are where it's a little bit hard to do when you can't pull your work right up in front of you. So it's a challenge, but I'm up for it. And as I said, this is just one piece of thread or floss. Floss, I believe it's referred to as floss because floss can be separated, thread cannot. So I guess this can't be separated, so technically it would be considered a piece of thread, but it hails from a skein of floss, if we're being technical about it. Hopefully I'm keeping a whip stitch. Thank you, Phyllis. It is a whip stitch that Maggie uses. Okay, and someone asked, Yvonne, you asked what glue it was. This is called Glue Based It by Roxanne. Let's see if you can see it. I'll put this back in and maybe you can see it better. It's called Glue Based It by Roxanne. It's fantastic for this. It's got this wonderful little tip that makes it very nice for using on small pieces. You can purchase it from Walnut Valley Woolens. They carry it. I'm not sure where you can buy it other than Walnut Valley Woolens, because that's where I got it, but I'm sure they probably have it other places. But, you know, it's always best to support our fellow stitchers, and Walnut Valley Woolens carries this glue. They also carry other wonderful things for stitching if you need other things. They have some wonderful scissors. And they also carry the Gentiana threads that I recommended in case you wanted to use a lovely, different thread other than the black that I'm using. And I will end up using this lovely linen color. And again, it's from Walnut Valley Woolens. It's Gentiana threads. And I believe we talked about this before, and I can't remember. I think it's wool and acrylic mixture. And this color is linen, if you wanted to purchase that. I believe I'm going to use that thread for the turkey. Unless I change my mind, but I don't believe I will. So if you want to get that and order yourself some of this glue that is extremely helpful for small bits like this, please feel free, because we'll use that wool again on the crop and wattle of the turkey. Okay, we're coming up on a corner here. And as I said, we don't want to get carried away with our corners, because we don't want a whole bunch of cobbed up stitches on our corners. Particularly, you're very welcome, Yvonne. And Phyllis, thank you again for letting me know what that stitch is. Particularly, we don't want a lot of stitching going on our corners and down on this edge, because we're going to put in our stem stitch to create our pocket. So, you know, you don't want too much going on down there, because it'll make a bumpy mess. So I came in right here on this edge for the corner. I'm going to just do my little typical corner stitch, hold my edge down, and then keep going. Yvonne, also to let you know, I have a supplies list for this project here in the group in the files section. You can find all the supplies that I'm using, and I don't think I added the Gentiana thread on there, because I think that was a last minute type of thing. I should go back and write that down somewhere. But the glue name and things like that, thread colors, wool colors, you can find all that in the supplies list, and that is in the files here in the group. Or it is also listed in the information underneath the videos on YouTube. Gosh, I feel like, bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to try to move this. I feel like my light frame is too close to me, and it's causing me stress. There we go. Okay. Hold on. I won't leave you. I just am trying to get this pulled closer to me without having everything that I have here in front of me. There we go. All right, let's see if I can keep going. I hope I have this in the right area for you guys to see it okay. I know she's upside down, but of course that's just the way I have to stitch at the moment. All right, we've got our last stitch we're taking here. Right down into there. Whoops. And her arm is finished. I would have liked, I guess, maybe a little bit more of a curve on that arm, but I probably should have curved it a tiny bit more and not cut off quite so much, but a little too late to worry about it now. Travel a smidge. Find my scissors. I don't know what this mess is over here. I guess we could say it is proof that I'm going to need a back on this piece, because those are the French knots. French knots in stem stitch, you do see more on the back. I don't know what happened right here, but something's missing. I'm going to fix that. I didn't cut there, so I don't know what happened. But something's happening, so let's take a moment and fix this. What I will do is I will come up here right below where this stitch is supposed to be. Grab a hold of that stitch, go over here to the next stitch. Looks like it got cut for whatever reason. I don't know what happened. Did. Then I'm going to create a little blanket stitch that isn't actually a blanket stitch, but I'm going to create the look of it. Go back down in so that I can secure all those threads down. Make sure I don't have any other issues. I wonder if I cut my knot by accident back here. Take a nice, add a nice little knot. Travel. Sometimes I do that. I get a little carried away with trying to neaten up the back of my piece, and I'll clip threads that I shouldn't clip. So just beware of that. Don't worry about what the back of your piece looks like. If it's a mess, put a back on it and you're all set. Okay. All right, so now we're going to do the blanket stitch, or the stem stitch down here. Add the second pocket. I guess that now that I have it upright, it does have some movement to it and a little bit of a bend. So we're going to add the stem stitch down here. So for the stem stitch, for this pocket, what did I use? Let me find it. I used 3 strands of thread and I waxed them. I actually did get my container open that I mentioned the other day, this little container of thread waxer, I guess it's called. I was able to get it open, but I actually ended up using this to wax my thread. Sometimes that's just easier. This is by Stacy Nash. It's one of her little thread waxers. I believe her daughter does them. And you just simply hold on and I'm not going to really do it again because I've already waxed this. I don't want to over wax it, but you just hold your hand down and pull it through and it waxes it very nicely. I like to, let me shake my piece. I like to wax my threads when I'm doing the stem stitch. I just like how that looks. Let me rethread my needle. It's also much easier to thread your needle with a piece of waxed thread. Okay, I don't know if I should keep this lifted up while I'm stitching or if you want it closer. It's going to be small stitches, so it'll be a little bit challenging for you to see. If you have any questions, let me know. I could probably do a separate video of just the stem stitch, but there are lots of wonderful videos already done on YouTube if you want to locate them, and I could put a link to those underneath the YouTube videos. All right, with the stem stitch, you're going to work from left to right, and you're going to hold your thread down below your stitches. Let me show you. So let me see on my curve. I guess I'll start up here for my curve and then I'll work that way. Take a look at what her pocket looks like here. It's not overly big on each side. Overly long, I should say. All right, so you're going to come out. Let me see if I can really get down here close and show you what I'm talking about. For your first stitch in the stem stitch, you're going to put your needle in. Now this varies depending on how long your stem is going to be and how you want it to look. This is not going to be a very long area of stem stitch. So I don't want to make my stitches overly long. You can, you could do it this length, you could do it this length, you could do it this length. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep them on the short side. So for the very first stitch, you're going to come up halfway between where you came out originally from the back and where you're going to go down in. You're going to come up halfway between the two, approximately. Don't stress if it isn't. And you're going to keep your loop of thread down to the bottom, and you're going to pull toward the top. For the second stitch, it's done in the same manner. The only difference is you're going to go down in, and I need to get closer to this handle this hand, because if it's too far away, it's not going to look right. So you're going to want it, your needle is going to make the path. So you're going to want it, to direct your needle as with any other wool applique stitch. Your needle gives the direction. So I'm going to go over closer to here because I want them to butt right up against this arm. So I'm going to go down in, but this time I'm going to come out where I just came from. So you're going to put your needle down in and have it come back out the same hole you just went down into. Don't get caught up in the threads that are there. So when you put your needle, and you're going to take this loops on the bottom again, and you're going to pull toward the top. And it just sort of makes a crisscrossy stitch. Whew, I was able to get that right up there. So let me show you again. Go down in, come back up, right where you just came out. But don't go up through and split your threads. Be sure that you're coming out that same hole, but not up. Don't put your needle up through the threads that are there. It can be a little bit of a challenge at first. I find this stitch to be amazing. It just is so pretty and can really bring things to life and be used for several different aspects. I mean, it's to me anyways, and maybe I'm crazy, but I mean, this really looks like little slits for pockets. But then also it looks absolutely stunning as an actual stem, as a vine or flower stem. It looks gorgeous like that. That's probably long enough, but I think I'm going to take one more. As you can see, whatever shape I want my line to take is where, gosh, this is hard to explain. Whatever shape I want my stem stitch to be in, I have to make sure that I'm bringing that about with my needle and where I'm going in. And there. I think those are adorable. This one has a little bit more of an actual slitty pocket shape, but slitted pocket shape. But I like the other one too. You know, when you actually put your hands in pockets, it's not always, doesn't look exactly the same on both sides. All right, so to finish up, you're just going to go right down where you last came out. And that finishes it up nicely. And you just create a little knot on the back. And there you have it. Travel a little again to hide my end. Clip it. Oh, I just think she is looking adorable. All right, so we're going to go up here and we're going to do a stem stitch on these other two curves. So you can see that. I was planning to stitch the entire piece first, get all the elements down, and then do the decorative stitching, but I just felt like she needed a little bit of character before we moved on. Okay. I'll try to bring this up a little bit. Hopefully you can see it without issue. So once again, we're going to come in from the back. We want to come out right at the very top because that is where the natural curve would start, of course. Then remember, for our first stitch, we're going to go down in and come back up halfway between the two sections, the two thread ends or thread bits. And then the next one, we're going to do a full stitch. Down one stitch length and then up through the hole we just came out of. That's my dryer, in case you guys are hearing that in the background. That's the dryer running. I'm trying to go right over this black marker line because I do not want that to show once I'm finished. And you could do different thicknesses of floss here. You could do, 2, 3, 4, 6. It looks really nice with 6, but because her head is small, I didn't want the stem stitch to overpower her tiny little head. So I went with 3 strands of the floss, and I think it works nicely. She may end up not really having a mouth unless I do a couple French knots as her mouth, but we're kind of low on the, by the time we get her nose done, might not have room for her mouth. So we'll see. All right, so this is her nose. I wonder if I could try to go doop, doop, doop with the stem stitch and see what happens. All right, I think I'm going to have to finish that right there. So go down like I'm going to finish, because if I just simply pulled and tried to switch directions, it would look weird. So go down like you're going to finish the stitch, but we're actually not. So then we're going to come back up here. Nope, scratch that. Let me pull that out if I can find it. Let me put my needle down so I can see where this is coming out. Okay, there we go. Well, it's hard to see on this black background. I'm going to pull that back out because that's not exactly what I wanted to do. If I can pull the darn thing back out, there we go. See all these errors on camera? Teachable moments, teachable moments. All right, so rethread. I could fib and tell you guys that, oh, I did that on purpose because I wanted you to see how to fix that, but I'm not going to do that. That was definitely an error. All right, so we're going to come out right here at the very bottom of our line. And we're going to go in this direction just like we're starting a stem stitch all over again. So half a stitch. Or, you know, go halfway between the two is what I was trying to say. Then fully. These are going to be short because it's just going to be a couple of them, but we are going to hope it works. Now we always want to go left to right, so see, that's already taking on a cute little nose appearance. So we're going to go down in because, of course, if we just pulled like this, we'd have that one little bit there and our stem stitch would end up looking funny. So you've got to do it like you're finishing off the stitch. So that right there. Then we're going to come out. I'm going to have it come out right over here because I'd like to make this line a smidge longer. So if I come out right over there, it'll give me a little bit more to work with. Okay. Then remember, you're going to do the halfway point. Then a full stitch. Oh my gosh, I don't know why the dryer is, it's running on the wrinkle setting, so it keeps shutting off, turning back on. Sorry if it's bothering everyone. We'll make this nice nose outline here with the stem stitch, and then I can fill it in with French knots. All right, I think one more. Short stitch. If I can get the darn thing to come up where I want it to come up. There we go. There. Okay, it's looking quite nice, I think. It's going to be a nice little triangle down the bottom. Now again, because we don't want our stem stitch all wonky, we've got to go down in like we're finishing this area. Let's go down in and then come back up. I'm going to come back up just on the other side of where I went down in. And start my stem stitch all over again. Remember to do halfway between these two. And you always work from left to right and keep your loop down below your stitches. And I have no idea how that would work for a left-handed person. I'm going to guess it would be just the opposite. I'm going to guess that you'd work right to left, but you'd still keep your thread, your loop below your stitches. But don't quote me on that, because that I'm not sure of, not being left-handed. I'm not quite sure how that would work. All right, so I want to close this triangle up right here. So I'm going to go right here. I'm going to go down in right here. Come up right here. Ooh, it's kind of hard. And then I'll go down in and finish that. That is looking kind of, well, not so cute at the moment, but when I get it filled in with my little French knots, I think it's going to be quite cute. Let's hope. If not, you can always take it out. But I actually, while I have my thread right here, I might as well just go ahead and do my French knots. So let's see. Still got my thread in the back. I'm going to bring it up. We just came out right here, so I might as well bring it out close to where I just came out. Now with doing a French knot, you don't want to wrap your threads around your needle more than 2 or 3 times. And very important when you're doing a French knot, don't have a needle that's very thin down, oh geez, very thin on one end. Drove that in my finger a little bit harder than I wanted to. Very thin and pointy on one end and thick on the other end, because you won't be able to do your French knots. You won't be able to pull your end through your wrapped thread. So make sure your needle width or thickness is all the same. All right, so you've got your thread that you just came out. You're going to take, hopefully I'm not bleeding. You're going to take your thread, wrap it around the tip of your needle 1 or 2 or 3 times. I'm going to do 2, and then put your needle tip right and go right back down in just about where you just came out. I like to hold this end. I just feel like it keeps my French knots from looking all weird. And there you have one French knot. And then I'm going to go on and fill this whole little area in with French knots. I'm quite worried I've made his nose too big, or her nose too big. I hope that's not going to be the case, but I do like the bumpiness it gives the nose and the eyes doing it with the French knots. I could probably utilize a satin stitch here or a back stitch maybe, but I don't know. I think it gives it a little bit more character, having it be the French knots. And my French knots are a little bit twisty and swirly. Again, the way I do things sometimes is a little bit different than how they are traditionally done, but I'm okay with that. I probably could have done this nose through French knots without the stem stitch around it. So if you guys don't want to stress yourself with the stem stitch triangle that I created, just simply add a group of French knots down here and you'll be all set. I mean, it helps to keep them hemmed in, but I'm sure you could manage to keep them hemmed in and have it look good. It's getting kind of hard to push my needle through when you have wax thread and you know, thicker threads. And when you're doing these French knots over and over again, there's a lot going on in the back, on the back of your work, so it can be a little bit challenging to push your needle through all that. That tends to be where I start to mess up my French knots, so let's hope that doesn't happen. Oh, Phyllis, you made your triangle the wrong way? Well, that's okay. You know what, Phyllis? Just go with it. Make it work for you. It's all right if it's not going in this same direction. It'll still look adorable. Jack-o'-lanterns and pumpkin faces don't all have to look alike. You just found a way to make it yours individual to you. I would say just keep it going. All right, I'm not going to fill that. Ooh, she's got quite the nose. She makes me think of myself. I always think my nose is enormous. I think it's going to work. It's bigger than I really would have intended it to be. And I wish I hadn't done that stem stitch around it because I think it would look better. Oh, hello, Suzanne. How is everything in Germany this morning? All right. As you can see, she's got a good sized nose there. But you know what? She's still cute. Oh, you took it out, Phyllis? That's okay. If you're happy taking it out and starting again, then you can do it. I may end up making her eye a little bit bigger because I feel like her nose is disproportioned, but I might not. I might just leave it. Okay. See what I mean about there's a lot going on back here to push your needle through? That just tends to happen when there's the stem stitch, the French knots. It just makes for thicker areas of threads. Not a big deal. We're going to put a back on this. All right, and then her nose is done. Let me let you see her from a distance, which is always a good thing to do with your work. If it's bugging you and you're feeling like it's not looking good, put it down, step away. In this case, oh, it's almost 6 o'clock in Germany. Oh, very nice. What are you having for dinner? As I stepped away and looked at her, her nose still looks too big. She may end up getting that pulled out. I'm going to try not to, though, because I sometimes I need to learn to just let things be and, you know, happen the way they're supposed to. But, you know, as we're comparing, this nose looks nothing like this nose over here. But, you know, it is what it is. It's not always going to happen exactly how we had planned. Okay, so let's get back down here. I'm going to do this other groove and keep moving. I do need to have some more thread because I don't have enough to do another whole line of stem stitches. And this one, I believe, is just 2 strands, so we can't use this one. Let me try to be quick. Get 3 strands going here so I don't take up all of our stitch time with threading my needle. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go a little bit longer because I just checked and it's already 10 of 12. So we will go a bit longer today because I would like to get a little bit more done. An hour stitching on camera goes by fast. Set those 3 strings aside. Hello, Bonnie. And again, hello to everyone that's here. I apologize if I know there's quite a few more people in here than I have said hello to, so I apologize if I miss saying hello to you. Okay. Do a quick waxing of my thread. do the stem. And again, we're going to come out right to where we want our stem stitch to start. Go down in and come back up halfway between the two holes that you just came out of. Your loop is on the bottom, your thread is on the top. And this next stitch, you'll go down in and come back out where you just came out of. So do a full stitch. Being sure to not split your threads when you do so. Probably help if I showed the stitching on camera. Hello, Bonnie from Missouri. So nice to have you here today. And thank you so much. Oops, I almost split my threads there. Okay, our final stitch. Go back down. Make our knot. Travel just a little. And there we have her. A couple of French knots for her eye, and her face, I think, will be done. I feel like I did that curve a little bit too. I can't decide where I want her eye right now. Bread and cheese and eggs. Oh, that sounds good. I do love baking bread, Suzanne. I actually meant to bake a loaf of sourdough this morning, but I didn't have time. So I'm going to do it tomorrow. I got busy today. Oliver and I took a walk, and I actually gathered some stems and berries. I want to try to preserve some stems. I don't even know what the trees are, but they're red leaves. They're not our maples. Our maples are damaged here in Vermont, and so all the leaves have dots and spots on them. So whatever this little tree bush was, it had red leaves, so I snipped some branches, and I'm going to try to preserve them. And I also snipped some wild rose hips, and I'm going to try to preserve those branches, so I got sidetracked. Oh, really, Suzanne? That's nice to know. Your sourdough bread is from rye and way darker? Oh, well, sourdough bread here could be made with rye or wheat, any flour really that you would like, but I tend to not. I love a wheat bread, but I don't like the wheat flour in my sourdough. I don't know why, I just don't seem to like it. So I stick with the bread flour, the white bread flour for my sourdoughs, and I'll use the wheat in other breads. All right, so I am not going to add her eye right now because I am not exactly sure where I'm going to put her eye. It's going to be French knots, just like we did the nose, just like we did this eye. I won't do a stem stitch around it though. This eye didn't stem stitch around. I only did the stem stitch around the nose. This eye, I'm just going to add some French knots. I lost my needle. I think over here, but I don't know because I want it to look the way it's supposed to. So they might end up being right here, but I feel like right here is the natural area to put some French knots for her eye. So that's what they'll be. But I wanted to move on. I thought we'd see about doing the turkey. Oh, here's my needle. Okay, I thought I lost it. Okay, I'm going to unthread with this. Grab myself some of this white thread. Now, I don't know. I've never waxed this thread. So I don't know how it takes wax. And I don't think for stitching our turkey, I'm going to really. I do want to throw some wax on the end of it because one thing I will say about this thread, oh my heavens, it's hard to thread in a needle. At least I find it to be. So it's if you run it through your wax, then it will help you thread your needle. Hopefully. And again, for people who just started watching, it's the Gentiana threads. They're wool and acrylic. Correct me if I'm wrong, everyone. Wool and acrylic, and you can find them at Walnut Valley Woolen. She carries a huge line of them, all lovely colors. We might not end up using this thread because I'll never get my needle threaded with it. I feel like you need a larger headed needle for this thread because it's challenging to thread. All right, I finally managed it. This is ready to go. I'm going to set it aside. Get my turkey in place. Well, part of the turkey. I think we'll do, we need to get our stem done as well. That stem's going to go there next. But holy smokes, I have to tell you, I don't know if you guys can hear that dryer, but it is driving me crazy. Turning off and coming back on. Aww. Now, in the picture that I drew, that head is straight, but I feel like I like it like this. Do you see this neck right here, this wool, how it's pulling apart? I'm going to have to be very careful with that. And if you're using this same wool, you're going to as well. So we're going to glue that down because that will help keep that wool together. What I'm going to do is, oops, hold on, I want to pop it back in there, tip it up, because if you keep this glue, if you keep it stored like this, it'll take a while for the thread or the glue to come back down into the tube. So it's just best to store it in the little container that it came in. Maybe I'll just pop her, with one good needle, one good pin right there. Get my glue. Let it sit for a minute. Make sure you wipe off your tip. You don't have to actually let it sit for a full minute. A couple of seconds will be just fine. Let it start to get tacky. Oh, excuse me, I had to take a drink of water. And then decide where you want it. So if you're gonna want it straight, have it straight. I feel like I want her looking down a little bit. Press it down. This wool, because it is a little bit more textured than this other wool, it's going to have a tendency to fray a little bit more. So we just need to be aware of that and be careful with it. All right, so I'm going to grab my glue again because I'm going to glue her beak. Oh, this beak is gonna, we may need to utilize the whip stitch here for this beak because that's not gonna be fun. It's not the kind of glue that you can use in a way that it will stiffen things up. This glue doesn't do that. So, which is a good thing. But if you were thinking, oh, that'll help stiffen things up and make it easier to stitch, that's not, this glue isn't meant for that. The glue is meant to stay soft and pliable so it doesn't affect how you're stitching. All right. We might as well just dive in and do this neck and get it over with. Let me move this all down so I can be a little bit closer to myself. It's not so difficult. And I'm just going to start a little bit down here. Give me just a second. I'm going to just hold that down a tiny bit. Having this so close to having this down so you guys can see this might make it a little bit challenging for me. All right, I'm going to start right here. I plan on stitching the turkey down with this lovely linen color, but I'm going to do the wattle and crop, I think, with the black. So that'll look nice. Now, part of me says I could just do this and that would hold that down, but I don't think I can do it. I just don't think I'll like how it looks, so I think I'm going to have to try the blanket stitch here. The worst that can happen is I shred my wool and I have to cut out another turkey. I almost made that error there. And I have to cut out another turkey and start over. So we'll just see what happens. I'm not afraid of seeing what happens. And if it does come about and it shreds my wool, then I'll just start over. And this, I can tell this wool is going to be shreddy. Certain wools are just that way. The more more texture a wool has, the more challenge it is to use for wool applique. At least I think so. I hope you guys don't mind staying longer today. What is happening right here? Oh dear. Okay, there we go. Now this thread, this Gentiana thread, can't be separated. I mean, it probably technically could, but you don't want to do that with it because it'll make it be very frayed and fuzzy looking. Just slow and careful. Keep your fingers on the pieces you're stitching. Oh, Judy, you do like it looking down best? Great. Now, Judy, when you stitched yours on, did you do the blanket stitch and did you have trouble with the neck? I know there's more to your comment. I can only see as far as jumping, and for some reason it won't let me see the rest of your comment. I am already feeling sort of like I'm regretting not using the black for this, but we shall see. What do you guys think of the white thread? I don't know that I love it. I just don't know. I feel like I should have used the black thread. Thoughts, everyone? I'm wondering if I should. I thought it would blend better, but I feel like it's sticking out too much. Let me shut off the light so you guys can see it in the natural light. Oh, geez. It's awfully dark. Black, Suzanne? Yep, I agree. I really think it should be black. Great. God knows what this is going to do to my poor little turkey neck. Oh, let's see if we can manage this without fraying this poor little neck to bits. Just be gentle if you find yourself having to take something apart like this. Being gentle is the key. Oh, you enlarged the pattern, Judy. Okay, yes, you did mention that you were going to do that. So the neck wasn't that much of an issue. I guess I probably should have made his neck. I need to be more aware of when I'm drawing something to make it larger for these purposes, and I have trouble with that. I used to only be able to, woohoo! I used to be really good at making everything larger than it was supposed to be and struggling with getting my fine details in. Now I'm the opposite. Now I make everything proportionately correct, at least I think anyways, and struggle with having things large enough to be easily done. All right, I'm just going to take this wax thread that I had in threes, pull that apart, hopefully, without causing too much of an issue. Oh boy, am I wasting the thread today? Oh no, I got it. Okay. This is already a little bit waxed. It's going to be one strand, like we did the arms with the one strand. I'm going to do one strand for the neck. You know what? No, I'm not. Something tells me to do two. I'm going to do two strands. And I will probably regret it. Such as when it took me 5 minutes to thread my needle with the white thread and then I didn't end up using it. Some days are just like that, my friends. They can't be helped. You know, I moved his head a little bit and now it's actually not down. There we go. Okay, stay put there. We should probably give her a name. Julia. Maybe her name is Julia. I don't even know why I just thought of that. All right, we're just gonna stick that in like that. If we leave it standing up, it's gonna be in the way. If I take and actually put the pin in fully, it may shred the wool. So we're just gonna do it like that. See now, if we can get going and not have you guys be here all day long. Right. Oh, already, yes, black is the way to go. I don't know what I was thinking. So all of that I said earlier about the gentiana thread and ordering it, and I'd be doing it for the turkey, disregard all that. Now, Suzanne, you said stops fraying. What stops it fraying? Is there something, do you have an idea? Or are you ordering the turkey neck to stop fraying? If you have a way to keep things from fraying, please fill us in on that. I think the waxed thread is really going to help it stay down nicely. Seems to be anyways. I don't know if you guys can see that, but has anyone ever preserved? Look above, please. Let me see, Suzanne. Here we have something called flies. What is it? Flies-a-fix? Files-a-fix? Flies-a-fix? You iron it on the wool, then pull off a paper and iron it to the background. And again, of course, Suzanne, it won't let me see more. It only shows me see more. It won't let me see your whole thing. But thank you very much for mentioning that. I wonder if we can find it here in the States. I'm sure we have something equivalent to that. I know a lot of people use fusible web. Judy, I think you use the fusible bond or fusible web, perhaps it's called, and that will help stiffen a piece up, and I'm sure it helps to stop it from fraying. I am really finding that having used that glue and these 2 strands of waxed floss is really helping and making a difference in a positive way. It's really helping. All right, hopefully I am staying in camera. I apologize for the shakiness. I'm so close to it that I'm bumping it. Anyways, I don't know if I asked, but have any of you ever preserved stems and things like that? We did leaves when I was young. We preserved fall leaves, but I'm going to try to do whole stems. Heat and bond something. Oh, heat and bond for the fraying. Okay, great. Thank you, Phyllis. I'm really, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really liking the curve of this neck and the black with the black thread with the tan wool. Oh, so as I was saying, I keep getting sidetracked. As I was saying, I'm going to try to preserve some stems. I clipped some leaves, clipped some stems from bushes, and I'm going to try to preserve them. You soak them, you split the bottom of the branch, you split the branch about 3 inches up from the bottom and soak them in warm water, which is the point I am at now. They're soaking right now, and then you'll do a couple more things, and then you put them in a bucket of glycerin and water and let that soak until the glycerin, I think it's just glycerin, maybe not glycerin and water, but put them in the glycerin and you let them soak until the glycerin is completely absorbed and you're seeing drops of glycerin come out the tips of the leaves, oh gosh, and it preserves them, which I thought would be so lovely. Oh gosh, okay. I'm worried this pointiness is gonna make her look a little bit more like a duck instead of a turkey if I go too far down with her head. I don't want to curve it too much because I want to keep her looking like a turkey. Of course, her wattle will help, but still, I don't want to go crazy with the downturn of the beak. So let's keep the beak right there, hopefully. I'm going to try to make my stitches a little shorter. Hold the beak down. Sorry if I was off camera. Hold the beak down as I go. And I know I'm going to lose a little bit of the tip of this beak. It's just inevitable. But that's okay because I actually made the beak quite long. Not just myself. In the photo, I don't know if you noticed, but her beak is quite long. And I did think ahead on that one and made it long enough where you could cut it out, and if you lost some ends, it would still look like a beak. So don't stress yourself if you lose part of the beak on the end. And if you don't, good for you, and you'll just have a nice long beak. All right, I'm just gonna be very careful through here. Hello, Janet, I see you're watching. It sure does, Suzanne. It looks a lot better with the black. It's amazing. It just, the black thread really just seems to bring it all together. Oh, gosh. My advice to you is, I know I'm always telling you to hold pieces down, but especially for thin pieces. Don't just get in there, take a stitch, and go willy-nilly and yank things up. All right, Phyllis, it was great seeing you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sorry I'm going extra long today, but I wanted us to make some good progress. You have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. All right, ladies, and for those of you that are just here or might be thinking I'm going too long, I don't plan on going all that much longer. Just bear with me. I would actually sit here and just stitch until we were done, but I can't do that because it would take me, as I mentioned in all the other videos, it would take me forever to get it uploaded to YouTube. YouTube is a process. I have to download it on my computer, then I have to go upload it to YouTube, and well, I have to alter it, edit it. I cut some things out. Not a lot, but just usually the beginning. Just the very beginning when I first sign in to live. And then it has to process. And the process on YouTube takes quite a long time. All right, so here I am at the very tip. And as you can see, it's fraying. But I'm gonna just go around the edge of this beak and not worry about that frayed area yet. I know that I'm going to lose this, but I'm going to try to hold it down, go around my tip. Now, it isn't a point. You could do it as a point, but really, I don't think typically turkeys' beaks are pointed. All right, I'm going to reach under there and get that. Trying to do it so you guys can see it as well. But of course, my finger's on the tip of it, but. Bonnie, you like the black thread as well? Yeah, I think that was the right decision. I'm glad I took the time to take it out and switch it and didn't just keep going with the white. All right, so then we've got that tip, and as you can see from me holding it down, and I think because my thread is waxed, it secured that fraying enough where I didn't end up losing that tip. So it worked out. That is pleasing. I'm just asking for a knot. I am not being very careful with this long end, and I'm sorry if I have my hands all over the work and you guys can't see it, but with a thin piece like this, I sort of don't have any choice. I have to really keep track of what I'm doing or else it's going to be a mess. A couple of these stitches are going to look like I just simply went over the whole piece of the nose, but I didn't. There are 2 stitches on each side, but they're so close. That kind of bugs me that looks a little bit cobbed up at the end. Hopefully it's not going to be too dramatic, and it's going to look good once I get the wattle and crop. I'm not sure which is which. I don't know if the wattle goes over the beak and the crop goes over on the neck, or if they're the opposite. Oh, good. Thank you, Bonnie. That's good to know. I'm glad you're enjoying it. So I don't know if it's the crop up here and the wattle down here, or if it's the wattle up here and the crop down here, but I know they're called that, and I know the shapes of where they go. I know which shape goes where. I just don't know what the technical name is for each one. Usually I like my, as you know, as I have mentioned, I usually like my stitches to be even with on each side. But I just don't think there's any way to have that happen with a thin piece like this. Also, our crop. I think that's the crop is up here. Our crop is going to go over this end of the beak, so those stitches aren't going to show anyway, so I'm going to not worry about that. There. It's a little bit. This is crazy because this is a Thanksgiving, October, November, harvest, Halloween piece. But stitching this for some reason has me thinking so much about the holidays, Christmas and Thanksgiving. And obviously the turkey is making me think of Thanksgiving, but for me, that when I say the holidays, it's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, but I feel very festive and very Christmassy at Thanksgiving time. I've already started listening to Christmas music, which my husband thinks is crazy, but this time of year, I'm anxious for snow. I'm anxious for, oh, that looks so cute. I'm anxious for snow, and I just love this time of year, and it just is such a cozy, comforting, homey type of time of year. I love it. And for some reason, this piece is making me feel very festive. Now she'll just have a tiny little French knot eye. Oh my heavens. That dryer has turned off and turned on the entire time we've been on this video. The electric bill is going to be through the roof. It's driving me crazy. I thought I turned that wrinkle. It's a wrinkle. Oh my gosh. I can't think of the name of it, but it's a wrinkle guard cycle that, will keep things from getting wrinkly. But I have the bathroom rugs in there, so I'm not quite sure why it decided to kick on with the bathroom rugs. I had a load of clothes in there earlier, and it didn't kick on the wrinkle cycle. Ooh. careful here, we could get a knot. Now I think I'm just going to go down, finish the neck, and then we'll call an end to this live session. And I may finish stitching her this evening as I'm relaxing, not on camera. I hope nobody will mind, but you guys get the idea of, you know, thus far how we've done our stitching. And I may just continue and get her body fully finished off camera so that when we start tomorrow, we can start in on her tail feathers and go from there. I must say, I am shocked that I did not fray this neck to bits. And I shouldn't say that until it's fully done, because I guess it could still happen. Oh, not. Hold on. Let's see if we can manage it. Son of a gun. I don't think I'm going to be able to. I think we've got a knot. We've got a troublemaker. See, I spoke too soon about the darn neck. Let me see. Sometimes if you pull, I don't think it's going to work. Let's see. Oh, it went through. Hallelujah. All right, let's see. There we go. All right, I had to unthread my needle, and I'll try to pull them apart and get that knot out of there. Oh, phew! I cannot believe that worked. That was a little miracle we just had right there. That'll teach me for being overconfident and speaking before I actually had something accomplished. As you can see, some parts can be a little bit difficult with getting it down through the needle down through one area and up through the other. And this side of the neck seems to be a little bit more frayed. I don't know what's happening here, but I swear I felt something. All right, the neck has been accomplished. Woohoo! Cheers, cheers. All right, so I'll just leave this here for now. I'll stitch that later, but I just want to, before we go, I just want to put these two little pieces in place and see what we're going to think of them. Let's just glue them down right now, see how we like them. Put our dabs of glue here. This wool is not so textured, so it's not, doesn't look like it's going to fray quite so much. Let's hope. And just push that right into place. Hold it down. It's amazing what the little details do for something, isn't it? Gosh, I hope I can pick this piece up without an issue. Let me see. I'm going to do this. All right, let's look. I want to make sure I place it exactly how I had it in the drawing because I really liked how it looked. Oh, goodness. Okay. And don't worry if you have to move a piece a little bit and your glue, like right there, you got a little bit of glue on your background. This glue washes very nicely with soap and water, so you could just take even your finger and brush it away, wash it away. Or you could even, I'm going to do this so that curves up a little. You could even take a little tiny Q-tip, or I wouldn't do a Q-tip actually because that'll leave fuzz all over your background. Paintbrush, you know, with a little bit of warm water on it. Should get it. There. I think she is going to be adorable. All right, you guys, I think we should probably call it quits for the day. Thank you all so much for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed today's session. Trying to get her, there we go. And we will see you all tomorrow at 11. Have the best day. Bye-bye now.